Good morning, everyone. This is Curtis Hawks with Insurance Agency Marketing Services, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the call with us today. Today we've got a very important call or topic that we're going to be chatting about, which is success with life insurance. As many of you know, um, with the pandemic and COVID, a lot of the carriers have modified what their underwriting processes are. And so we wanted to take some time today to talk about some of the ways that we're helping advisors have success and make sure that we're keeping turnaround time short and making sure we're getting the offers that the agents are wanting and the clients are looking for. So before we get into that, I know we've got a mix of agents on the call today. I did want to chat about some of the additional ways that we're helping advisors have success in their business. So first off, I want to talk about our new producer builders. And this is really a great way for us to partner with advisors. Our goal is to meet you where you're at and help you to get to where you want to be. And so to that end, we put together our new producer builder system. And essentially what that means is these are all point levels. And in your first 6 months with us, as you're getting production in, you can qualify for additional things, and you can see a variety of options on there. But whether it's cash or marketing dollars or trips or marketing systems, we've got a number of options available. And so I would encourage you, if you've got questions on that, reach out and talk to your sales director about it. The other point that I'd want to make on this, and this is, if you haven't started working with us, this is a common theme that you'll see with what we do, but customization is very important to us. So we know that every advisor is a little bit different. They're in different areas of the country. They're at different stages of their career. And so the ability to customize how we operate and how we support each advisor is very important to us. So what I would mention to you is if you're doing something marketing-wise that you really like, reach out and talk to a sales director, and we can chat with you about how we can help work with you on that. In addition to our new producer builders, we've got our IAMS business builders. And so for those of you that are on the call with us today that are working with us, if you know an agent that maybe isn't quite happy with their current relationship or is looking to make a change, we've got our referred producer program. This is a great way to generate additional revenue for your business. So not only do you get a $50 bonus when that agent gets contracted with us, but in addition to that, you'll get an additional $100 when they place their first piece of business with us. And then I think this is a key differentiator with us, but on an ongoing basis, on a quarterly basis, you'll get additional checks based off of their production. You don't have to do anything. We'll take care of all the service. We'll take care of the agent, but it's additional revenue going back into your pocket. In addition to that, I wanted to mention our marketing reimbursement program. This is a great way to double the size of your marketing budget, and that's one of the things that we found as well here over the course of the last year, is that it's not just about being creative when it comes to your marketing, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides, but we've seen a lot of advisors where they've had to spend a little bit more money on advertising to maintain their same consistent prospect flow. And so this is a great way for IAMS to partner with your business and really double the size of your marketing budget. And so you can see there at the bottom of the screen that you can accrue additional marketing dollars for your index annuity production, single premium life insurance, as well as target premium as well. And if you've got questions on that, I would encourage you to, again, reach out to your sales director and they can chat with you about that. In addition to that, back office support, which is, a core topic of what we're going to be talking about today. And, I think a lot of IMOs out there talk about back office support, having good service. I think we do it better than most. I think we're one of the best firms in the industry. But I think the last year has really highlighted the importance of having a good back office team at your IMO because you've had a lot of the carriers where they do have staff working remote. Things have slowed down. So from the initial design phase of a case to having a good team to talk to if you need to get licensed, if you have business submitted, all of those things are critically important, and it's all about having the right team there to support your business. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't used our back office support, you need to, because I think what you'll find is that we do a very, very good job. In addition to that, obviously, the landscape looks a little bit different these days. So while I think we were early adopters as far as the e-application platforms that are available out there, I did want to make a point to all of the advisors on the call today that we do integrate with Firelight. We also integrate with iPipeline as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to our website slide. But we do have that available on our site. We really want our website to be kind of a one-stop shop for anything that you need to do. I also want to put up here, you can see Firelight integrates with the majority of the common carriers that you would work with. And then the other aspect about that is we're always looking to add additional companies. So we do have several carriers that we're going to be getting on the platform here in the near future. And if you have questions on that, reach out to your sales director over here and they can chat with you about that and how to get set up on it. In addition to that, we've got our creative marketing solutions. And as I'd mentioned earlier, I think creative is really the key word. A lot of advisors pre-pandemic had their different marketing strategies that they implemented. And obviously, over the course of this last year, one of the things that we've seen is not all the things that you might have been doing marketing-wise pre-COVID work the same way in a virtual environment. And so what I would tell you is that we've invested a significant amount of resources, time, energy, and effort into creating customized marketing plans because it is a little bit different depending on the area of the country that you're in, and then also the stage of your business and what you're doing. It looks a little bit different as far as what might generate a consistent flow of prospects for you. And so one of the things that we've developed is our custom marketing analysis process. And essentially what we do in that process is we'll go through and look at your business. Where are you located? What is your target market? How are you currently marketing and advertising? And what do we think the right mix of activity is to help you accomplish your goals? And out of that, you'll get a customized marketing plan. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't gone through that process, we're coming up on the end of the first quarter. It's a great time to do that and put together a plan for the balance of the year. So reach out to your sales director and they can get that scheduled for you. In addition to that, as I mentioned, we've got our IAMS website. It's an amazing resource. If you want to do e-applications on Firelight or iPipeline, you can do that. If you want to run term quotes, if you want to run annuity quotes, we've got a lot of industry information on there. We've got product grids, everything that you need to be able to transact business. And then in addition to that, we also have our sales resource library. And I think this is one of the biggest value adds that we have on the site. And the reason I feel that way is we're doing a lot of virtual presentations right now. That's just kind of the nature of things. And so our library has several hundred optimized for virtual presentation point of sale pieces that you can use on virtually every topic that you could think of, all the way from life insurance basics and having a piece that talks about the differences between term, whole life, and UL, to on the other end of the spectrum, if you want to talk to somebody about, or a business owner or a high net worth client about loan regime or economic benefit split dollar and everything in between. So this is available for our licensed agents. If you're not currently licensed with us, reach out and talk to a sales director. They can get you set up and contracted and get you registered on here. But it is truly just a wealth of different tools that you can use for your practice. In addition to that, as we all know, virtual presentations have significantly grown over the last year, and so we do have our Retirement Analyzer platform available. This is a great tool, whether you're meeting somebody face-to-face or a virtual presentation, but it really takes that question of, will I outlive my income in retirement, which is the number one fear of retirees. It takes that question and allows you to, in a very simple, easy, and straightforward format, show them, well, let's take a look at it. Let's look and see, based off of what you've done to this point and what you want to have income-wise in retirement, if this is going to accomplish your objective. And if it doesn't, well, let's talk about some different ideas and concepts that we can implement to help you meet your retirement objectives. And so it does it in a very simple and easy to understand format. I think that's one of the reasons why we have so many advisors using it. You can get access to this for free through us. So if you've got questions on that, certainly reach out and talk to a sales director over here and they can answer your questions and help you out with that. In addition to that, I did want to make a point that we do have IAMS Wealth Management, so we do have an RIA platform, and Charles and his team do an amazing job over there. And what I would tell you is right now is an amazing time. If you've been thinking about AUM, or if maybe you're already currently licensed and maybe you're not quite happy with your relationship, right now is an amazing time to look into this and look at expanding out what you can do with your business and your value proposition with your clients. And so if you have questions about that, reach out and talk to Charles and his team. They can talk to you about how they operate, how they work, and how they can really truly make a difference in your practice. Last, I wanted to talk about our recently announced Top Producer Summit. And I can tell you, we are really, really excited about this. And, face-to-face time with our advisors is critically important to us. And last year was a tough year because we really had to cancel the bulk of what we had planned. And so we're really excited to get our next trip announced and get it on the books. And you can see there it's going to be end of August, September of next year. And so we wanted to make sure that we could set something out and be able to go on a trip and get together with everybody. And so you can see it's a Mediterranean cruise. It's going to be very, very high end, concierge level for all of the advisors and their families are going to be attending. And you can see we're going to be visiting several ports, working our way around the boot of Italy. And I think one of the best things about it is we have a very lengthy qualification period. So you can actually qualify for this trip up to June 30th of next year. So there's plenty of time to get that business in and get it placed. And so it really is going to be an experience of a lifetime. And so I would encourage you, if you want some more details on that, if you want to know where you rank on it, reach out, talk to a sales director, and they can help you out with that and go through that. So with that, we'll go ahead and get into the main event of today's conversation, which is going to be talking about success with life insurance. And so as many of you have probably seen over the course of last year with the carriers, it hasn't necessarily been easy doing business. And so you've had the carriers who have, actually you've had several carriers that have done layoffs or reduced down staff. You've got them having staff work remote. And so as I mentioned on that back office slide, having the right team of people supporting you at your IMO is critically important. And so we work, Cindy and her team work a lot of cases every single month. And so we thought it might be a good idea to get her on a call today and talk about some of the trends and things that she's seeing out there, that she and her team are seeing out there, and some different ways that they found to make the process go as smooth as possible. So Cindy, I really appreciate you taking some time with us this morning to share some of your knowledge with the advisors that we have on the call.
Thank you, Curtis. I'm happy to be here, and welcome to those advisors who are on the call with us. So as Curtis said, we are going to go through some topics for your success with life insurance, kind of help you out, let you know what to expect, what the client should expect, and so forth. So we'll go on to our topics here that we're going to be covering. Curtis, if you'll advance, thank you. So we're going to talk about e-app versus a paper application and what that all entails and the different types of applications for both of those that the carriers have. Then we'll move on and we'll do some accelerated underwriting versus full underwriting, kind of what that looks like, what you and your client should expect through the accelerated underwriting process versus, again, the full underwriting, and what to expect if the client doesn't qualify for accelerated underwriting. Then we're going to move on and we're going to do just a quick review of the iPipeline system, which is a quoting system and an e-application solution for the life insurance business. And then after that, we'll move on to the underwriting advantages. And that's going to be a lot of information on kind of what we've been seeing, what to expect again, and so forth. And then, of course, we'll have a questions and answers at the end. So any questions you can type into the chat box, and we will get to those at the end of the presentation. So let's go on and let's talk about our e-app versus paper and the benefits. So first off, I want you to know that with a paper app or an e-application, there are two types of applications. There's a short app, which sometimes is called a drop ticket, a carrier ticket, a worksheet. Each carrier kind of calls it something different. But then there's also the full or the long application, which is a full application that you're used to seeing and used to completing in paper. The difference between those two is the drop or carrier ticket or worksheet is going to be just basic information. It's not going to ask any of the underwriting questions. You're basically just going to fill out a really quick form that's going to get sent over to the carrier. The carrier or their third-party vendor will then reach out to the client to complete the underwriting questions versus the long app, which you are going to sit and ask your client all of the underwriting questions and get those answers. Now, with both of those, I want you to know that you do need to know the general health of your clients, because this can make a big difference in the way that the carrier processes. If your client has some health conditions, taking some medications, we definitely want to know about that up front before we recommend any product or carrier, because each carrier underwrites a little differently. And then so getting into the benefits of doing an e-app versus a paper app, with an e-application, it ensures that the application is complete. Every box is checked, every blank that has to be filled out is filled out. Now that doesn't mean it's always accurate. If there's still human error that can happen. Sometimes we find that an agent had said no, there wasn't any life insurance that the client had. Unfortunately, the client forgot that they did have a life policy from years ago, and that is then discovered later on. Things like that can happen. But otherwise, it will be complete. It also is legible. Like I said, it's mostly in good order. It's going to have all the signatures and dates, the right dates, applied to every place on an application. I know a lot of you, the applications, you remember life applications being only a couple pages long to begin with, and now they can be up to 40, 50 pages, and there's signatures everywhere throughout the application. Well, the good news is with the e-app, the application's platform actually applies those signatures everywhere they are needed. It also, with e-applications, it does help get through the carrier process much quicker. And that's due to not having to, read somebody's handwriting, it being complete, being in good order for the most part, having all the signatures, having all the right forms. If you say that they have life insurance and it's an NAIC state and a replacement form is needed, whether they're replacing or not, the platform automatically generates that form for you. So you don't have to know, do I need this or don't I? That application does it for you, which we use as iPipeline for most of our life carriers. So let's move on to the next topic here.
Hey, Cindy, I had one more question too. So
Yeah.
with the iPipeline system, they notify us when an app comes in, but isn't it always a good idea if the agent's going to be doing an e-application, once they complete that process, maybe shoot an email over to their sales director or the new business team saying, hey, I just got one in, as far as making sure that we can go and double check, make sure it all went in good order, all of that. Wouldn't that be accurate?
Yes. The other thing is if you know for certain the e-app was completed and the client has also signed and you have signed. So what happens when you put in an e-application and it's not a carrier or drop ticket? An email is sent to your client for your client to e-sign, and then an email is sent back to the agent to e-sign. So once the agent or the advisor has e-signed, and if you don't hear from IAMS within 24 hours, please call us, because that means it got hung up somewhere, it didn't get through. Also, if your client didn't receive the email, give us a call. It's always good to let us know, because we only get notified once the process is complete. We don't get notified that something's out there outstanding, waiting for something. And we can help with a lot of the iPipeline issues. If we can't, we will definitely get you over to a Rapid iPipeline to go through that and get that resolved. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I got you on the next slide here.
Perfect. So accelerated underwriting and how it works. So accelerated underwriting works a little different. So either the phone interview is completed, which is either the carrier or their third-party vendor, again, who calls your client to go over those questions. Now, we are notified of that phone number once the application is submitted to the carrier. So we will provide that phone number to the carrier or third party that the client needs to call, because we understand we don't answer calls when we don't know the phone number. The good news is the third party vendor or the carrier, whoever's doing the call, will leave a message for your client. They can call back when it's convenient for them. They also leave the times of days that they are open for phone interviews. Now, some carriers, you can do an e-interview, which that is just an email that is sent to your client for your client to click on a link and go through the questions online. So either one of those are done, and that starts the process of an accelerated underwriting. But then the carrier also is pulling data from the MIB, MVR, and the prescription drug report. So an MIB, is a medical information bureau. So that kind of tells them what they've been seeing for, things like that. This is all public record. MVR, of course, is motor vehicle report. And then, of course, the prescription drug report. And I know sometimes agents say, well, my client's not taking any any medications. Unfortunately, sometimes what happens is a client may be prescribed something but never filled it. That still can be reported to the prescription drug report. So, we want to make sure that we know of any of those, or the client can go, we can get them a phone number, they can try to get that resolved from their record. But those are all the things that the underwriting team takes into consideration when deciding if it's going to go through accelerated underwriting. A lot of them also use Nexus Lexis. So that also includes financials like bankruptcies, things like that, liens, those kinds of things. So if they get through that and if they score appropriately, they move on through the process. However, if they don't meet the guideline and they're now going to have to go on to fully underwritten, then there's going to be more needed. Then they could potentially ask for an exam and labs. They can ask for medical records. They will dive deeper into it and put it all the way through the full underwriting. So again, back to when I said we still need to know your client's health, even if you're doing a drop ticket or a carrier ticket or worksheet or the short app. That's because if something shows up here, it's going to push it into the next phase, going to fully underwriting instead of going straight through accelerated.
Cindy,
Yeah.
I think one point that you've mentioned too is I think one thing that's helpful is when the advisor is meeting with the client, letting them know there's going to be a phone interview, because sometimes that can tack just the back and forth of they get a phone call and don't answer it because maybe it's not a number they recognize, right? And then all of that can add some time onto it. So letting the client know to expect that they are going to be getting a call from the examiner, I think helps out with shortening that process a little bit as well, doesn't it?
It does. And then when you're going through that quick application, the short application, some carriers ask, do you want a phone call or would you like an email? So just have your client prepared, hey, you're going to get a phone call, or, they said, no, I'd rather have an email. Okay, so you're going to want to watch for an email in the next, 48 hours. And if you don't see it, let us know so we can call and see why they didn't get their email. The other thing too is to make sure everybody is checking their spam in their emails, because a lot of times things like that do end up in the spam folder, which then now we've lost 2 days already waiting for the client to get the email. But as for the phone call, definitely. And that's why we provide the agent with the phone number for the client to call, so the agent can reach out to the client and say, hey, here's the number you'll want to call to complete your phone interview. That also helps speed things up.
Okay. And then when an agent submits an app through accelerated underwriting, if for some reason something comes back on the background and doesn't qualify for that, then your team is reaching out to the agent as soon as we get an update of it. It's either going through or not, letting them know, okay, didn't clear accelerated underwriting. Here's the next steps, or here's what to expect, et cetera. Correct?
That is correct. And then we also ask if, they want us to order the exams or if they're going to, because we do know some advisors like to have control of that and order their own. So we are reaching out just to make sure, and to make sure there's nothing different that we need to add to it, like the client prefers certain days or certain times. Because if they do, we do like to give that to the exam company so that they can try to accommodate that for the client.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the next, which is the EAP options. And here, kind of like Curtis had already said, we do have Firelight on our website. All of these you will find on IAMS's website. So Firelight has mostly annuity cases or carriers listed there to do EAPs through. They do have a couple of life. One big one is Allianz, because Allianz is not on iPipeline. It is only on Firelight. So that is when, if you're going to write Allianz, you're going to want to use the Firelight platform. iPipeline is the one for life insurance mainly, and it has most of our carriers out there. I know American National has their own, but that is linked to our website as well. So you are able to go out there and go directly to their EAP. You don't have to log in or go to American National's website directly. You can do it right through IAMS's website. And then we also have Connect for Medicare and Sunfire, which are for the Medicare Advantage and PDP business. So anybody doing that kind of business or doing the senior health business, we do have those online tools as well. And then, of course, if you do a paper application, we do have a document upload on our website, which is very secure. So you are able to go out there and upload a paper application directly to us, and it will come to our life email box and will get processed. Curtis, anything to add on that?
Yeah, the thing I'd add, and I know Cindy, you're getting ready to go into this, but I was always when I do my applications, I always preferred paper, and one of the things that I was surprised about, I think everybody on the call will see as we go through this, is once you go through and do the EAP process, it's almost like you don't want to go back to paper, because you are getting an app in where you don't have to worry about a missed signature. It does go through really quick. You can start, stop it. I know you're going to make these points, but it really is something that if you haven't looked at using in the app before, it's really, this is a good time to look at incorporating that into your business.
Yeah, and Curtis, to that point as well, one that I didn't mention that I should have is that it's on the right paperwork. So you don't have to worry if you have outdated paperwork or we don't
Yeah.
get it and, oh, they updated it 6 months ago. Oops, they won't
Yep.
accept this. So a lot of that back and forth is eliminated from doing an e-application. And like Curtis pointed out, and we'll go through that in this presentation here, but you can start and stop. So if you as the agent or advisor want to start an application for your client and put in like their name and date of birth and address and phone number because you know it's correct and you have it from other business, you can do that. So you don't have to have them with you or on the phone at the time you fill that part out. And that does help as well. It makes you look prepared, and you are prepared at that point. And if your client says, I'm not quite ready yet, okay, leave it out there. Even if you go back to it in 6 months and you pick it back up, you just verify the information and continue on. You haven't started it on paper that could be outdated by now. It will actually, when you complete it, will pull and populate the accurate paperwork. So that's another good benefit for e-apps, doing electronic applications.
Very good point. Yeah.
All right, let's move on and let's do a quick demo of the iPipeline. So first of all, you just go to IAMS's website. It's iamsinc.com, and you click on the log in. It says log out because somebody was logged in, but you click there and you just log in. Once you do that, we're going to move on to the next slide. And you're going to hover over the e-app solution at the top, on the top bar there. And then you're going to go down and select the iGo e-app solution. Or if you need to do Firelight, it's there. Firelight, you do have to register for. So you see that Firelight registration is the first one. And then once you've registered, you only register once. Then you can go to Firelight, or you can do the Connect for Medicare. We have added the Sunfire, which unfortunately doesn't show on this slide, but that's okay. It is there now. So we'll go on to the next slide. You're going to scroll down till you see this navy blue box, and then the middle box is going to say iGo eApp Solution, and that's where you're going to click to start. Once you click that button, the next screen you're going to see Launch iGo in that orange. If you read, it kind of gives you a little bit of information there, but click Launch iGo. Once you do that, you're going to see this next screen, which, as you can see with the big yellow arrow pointing to it, start a new case. However, we'll go over View My Cases as well, but the View My Cases obviously are going to be the ones that you've already started. So no need to start over. If you weren't able to finish it in one setting, you can definitely come back to it at a later time. So on the next slide, you're going to see I chose, on this slide, you're going to see anything highlighted in yellow on every slide is going to be mandatory. You must put something there. So, but the more information you put here, the less information you have to put in later in the process. So of course, putting in the first name, the last name, the date of birth. Date of birth is important because each carrier looks at age differently. Some are age nearest and some are actual age. So the date of birth is very important to have for that reasoning because that's going to change the price of the policy. And then of course the gender, you can put a case description if you'd like. And then of course you're going to select the state that it's going to be sold in and the product type you're looking for. And then it's grayed out, but that find available products. Once all those yellow boxes are completed, you can click the find available products. When you do that, you're going to get a list of all the carriers. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you Prudential just because it has, you can see Prudential Essential UL Worksheet. So that's going to be your short application. And off to the right, it says select an e-sign. You have the Prudential Long application, which is going to be that full application that we discussed. You're going to ask all the underwriting questions. And of course, on the right, you just hit select. So this is how you would note if you're going to do a worksheet, if you want to do just a short application, or if you want to do a long application. And multiple carriers have this option. Prudential just was easy to pull up and take a screenshot of. So after that, you're going to go to the next screen. And on this screen, I chose North American just because that's one we do a lot. But as you can see, it has pre-qualification notes. So here it's going to kind of just guide you of what you can do on an e-app or maybe what you cannot do via an e-app. As you can see, like large face amounts, 10 million or larger, they're not available with North American on an e-app. So you would have to do a paper application, unfortunately. But this is a good page on all of them to read. So if you go on to the next slide, we are going to see down that left-hand side, it says like pre-qualification, proposed insured, beneficiaries, that whole list of sections that are going to need to be completed in order to fully complete the application electronically. So as you go through them, as you can see, we did the pre-qualification, so there's a green check mark. And then of course the proposed insured has a red question mark because we were there, but we didn't finish it. So on this screen, you can see that I put in a first name and a last name, a date of birth, and I filled in the sex, but I didn't fill in marital status, social security number, country of birth, annual income, net worth, and so on. So that is why it still has that question mark there. But as you move through this process, and we can move on to the next screen, you will see check marks appear down that left side, indicating that you have completed something. Now, if there's nothing next to the section, that means you haven't even looked at it. You haven't even been to that section. If it has a red question mark, it means that you've been there. You just didn't complete everything that needed to be completed. The good news is you can always click on those sections to go directly to that section that you need to complete. So if you had one that was blank or one that had a question mark, you're able to click next to it and it'll take you right to that section. Again, and everything in yellow would need to be completed. So on this screen here, I went down to validate and lock data, which means that it would be ready to be sent to the client for signatures. But I get this, your application is incomplete and not in good order. So that's telling me I cannot do that step just yet, which obviously because it's not complete yet. But if we go to the next slide, you'll see where I have completed it all. I've got check marks all the way down to the premium information and more. And I'm to the point where it says validate and lock data. So once you validate and lock the data, and the email is sent to your client cannot make any changes to the application. If they notice there is an error or something is incorrect, they would have to notify you the advisor, and you would have to go back out to iPipeline, open your case, and unlock, make the correction, and then lock it and resend it to them. That's important to know because that is sometimes a question we get is my client tried to correct something and it wouldn't let them. That is correct. We don't want anybody but the advisor making changes to the application. Then once all that is done, you'll see your application is now ready for our electronic signature process. In the yellow box, all signing parties agree to receive information electronically and to use electronic signature process, blah, blah, blah. So you will want to check that box. And then once you check that box, you will be able to submit for signatures. And if you go on to the next page, the next slide here, as you can see, I clicked it and it says lock application and proceed to signature process, which wasn't there on the page before. So once you check that box, you will be able to lock it and proceed to the signature process. Curtis, any questions on that you have right now? That's a lot of information.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, it's a lot of information. So one of the things that I think I would mention too is so you and your team and the sales directors as well. We get a lot of questions on this on agents who are wanting to go through this. I think it's an important point to make that we're here as a resource. So if you've got questions or you're having an issue, whatever, give Cindy, and her team a call. Call the life sales directors, but we're here to help you, and we can walk you through this. And the team is very proficient with iPipeline. I think that's a good point to make.
It is a very good point. Yes, and we have advisors all the time calling us and asking us questions, and don't hesitate, because once you get the hang of it and once you see that you just really follow each screen as you go through, it's a very simple process. It does get down to this part, and not knowing that your client can't make corrections to an application that they're doing or they're signing on seems a little odd and maybe unusual, but that is how iPipeline is set up. And we do get questions on that. So please give us a call. We can look in the system. Again, we can try to figure out where it's kind of stalled at and maybe get that corrected for you. And if not, then it's probably an issue for iPipeline, which we have a support team over there that we would get you in contact with so that you could resolve the issue with them. So moving on to the next slide, we're going to go back to that very first slide we saw where it said start new case and view my cases. So again, under the view my cases, you're going to be able to see anything you have started. It will be listed by client's name as long as you got the client name in there. Off to the right, there would be a drop-down box asking you basically what do you want to do? Do you want to open it? So you would just click what you want to do with that application. And if you open it, you're going to open it back up, and down that left-hand side, you're going to kind of see where you left off. And you're going to be able to click that section that you need to go to next to continue that process. And again, if you have any questions before starting a new application, when you know you've started one already, please give us a call. We'd be more than happy to look in there to see if the case is out there pending, if it's not in good order, kind of where it's at. So again, please utilize the IAMS team to help you through that. We would be happy to do that. So that's kind of iPipeline in a nutshell. Again, there was a lot of information there that I provided, and I know there was. Again, feel free to give us a call and we will help you. We've even, helped agents walk through their first application on the phone, kind of went through it with them, kind of helped them through. So if you feel like that's something you need, that's what we're here for. So let's go ahead and move on to the underwriting advantages. So again, kind of what Curtis had mentioned back earlier in the presentation, that some of the holdups with underwriting is scheduling and completing the phone interviews, getting the scheduling and completion of the exams and labs. A lot of times it seems like the carrier or the third party calling the clients is getting held up. So what we figured out a long time ago to do is to provide the advisor, the information for your client. So the phone interview phone number, the exam office near them that's going to schedule their exam, we provide you that information so that you can provide that on to your client, and then they can make the call when it's convenient for them. Some people are still working. They don't have time between 8 and 5 to take a phone call. These vendors are open after 5 p.m. So, and depends on where you're at in the state or in the country, but they are open after 5, so they are more than welcome to call when it's convenient for them. Even if they have to call when they're closed, they can leave a message. And again, each third-party vendor will leave a message. The carrier will leave a message with detailed information for your client. So even if they don't answer the call, they should be expecting a voicemail from them. If we have an email address for your client, the third-party vendors also will send an email to your client asking them to call them to schedule. So you have multiple ways to get that exam and phone interview scheduled, and we do our best to help you with that. Again, any details you can provide us, like a better time of day, a better day of the week that they'd like called, we can definitely pass that on to the third-party vendor to accommodate you and your client. Attending physician statements. This is another one. A lot of physicians require special auths. So we do get those over to you as soon as we get them. Unfortunately, they don't have them out there just waiting for us to get. They do have to provide that to us. So once we get those, we do send those on to you. But sometimes you will hear the case managers call you and ask for your assistance, because sometimes we need the client to call their doctor's office and let them know that they've applied for a life insurance policy and the medical records are needed to make a decision. For some reason, that does speed up the doctor's office. They're like, oh, I need to get those out there. That's important. They do their best to get everything processed as fast as they can, but they have patients to see and, things to do. So not always is that the top of their priority. So if we do reach out to you, just know it's because we're needing your assistance on getting a response from the physician's office to get those medical records copied and sent over to us. Field underwriting. This is another one. Again, going back to me talking about needing to know the health of your client. It is imperative that we know kind of what's going on with your client. And if there are some health issues, we can get that out and pre-screen that with multiple carriers to see who's going to give us the best offer, in a preliminary setting. So of course, it might change a little bit depending on what they find in medical records and on the exams and labs. But if we know up front, we can actually find the best product and best carrier for your client. We do have an underwriting questionnaire to help you out if you do have somebody who you think might have some conditions that you need to keep track of. We do have that form you can take and ask the questions and fill that in, which is helpful to you guys just because it kind of guides you through that process. Once we pre-screen, again, we will let you know which carriers came in with what and what the cost would be. Potentially, this is never a guarantee. Again, this is just a preliminary, but it's better than getting through to the end and finding out, oh my goodness, there was no way we could get them insured with this product. We needed to do something like this. Because with the MIB and all those reports that the carriers run in underwriting, a decline will show up. And then that makes other carriers question. So we don't want declines if we don't have to. We want to make sure that we're getting these cases placed, not only for your client, but for yourself. Curtis, you got anything else you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, and I think you make a good point on that too. I mean, one of the things that we obviously have seen develop over the course of the last year is a lot of carriers have rolled out updates and modifications to their underwriting guidelines due to COVID, and so what that's looked like is at certain age ranges, if somebody has certain medical conditions, whether it's diabetes, cancer history, cardiac, et cetera, somebody can still get insurance coverage, but maybe the carrier limits how many tables that person can qualify for. So, most insurance companies pre-COVID would have 10 to, in some cases, 15 tables available that you can underwrite somebody on. But with COVID, some of these carriers, as an example, if you've got somebody that's 70 or older, most carriers are only going to go to 2 tables, and so you might end up with somebody that is technically insurable, but because of the COVID restriction, the carrier is not going to place an offer. And I think that's a good segue into, we've had a few questions come in here, but when a client does have somebody where they know there's some health issues, I mean, what You'd mentioned the health screening questionnaire, but what are some of the things that they, need to do, or what's the most important thing for them to do if they've got a scenario like that?
Contact us, definitely. Contact the sales director with that information so we can look at it so they can, like I said, do a pre-screen on it. Good point to Curtis, and the table ratings and everything else. COVID has changed a lot in the underwriting world, and we just want to make sure that we're looking at the best product for you and your client. So yeah, definitely reaching out to us, discussing that with us, letting us get with our underwriters the contacts we have at the carriers, and finding out kind of where the client would stand with their insurance.
Yeah, because the thing is we know the case is important to you, and we want to get it placed just as badly as you do, and so that's I think one of the things that we've been doing a lot more of over the course of the last year is spending a little bit more time on the front end and talking about cases and making sure that they're going to fall within those guidelines, so we can make sure we get that placed, because it is a little bit different world now. I think what we're seeing from the carriers, and in fact, we had an email go out actually today to everybody. We do have American National, who, if somebody has completed their vaccination, will offer full underwriting. And I think over the course of this year, we'll see some more of that. But you still have a majority of the companies that do have those COVID restrictions. So it is important that you're doing some field underwriting and that we're making sure we're going down the right path with the right carrier. So Cindy, another question I had or that came up was, what does the follow-up process look like? So an agent, they submit an application. Kind of what does that interaction look like with the case management team with that advisor?
Sure. So once an application is received in IAMS, whether it's an e-app or a paper application, it gets entered into our CRM, and an email is generated out to the agent letting them know that we received the business and letting them know who their case manager will be for that case. And then once the case manager gets it, they review it, and then they reach out and call you, the advisor, and go over what is needed. If there's anything missing, kind of what the next steps are, what they need from you or the client to submit the application. At this time, they're also kind of reviewing the underwriting questions if it's a full application. And if they think there's any concerns, then they're getting with the sales director to discuss to make sure it's, appropriate to send it on to the carrier. But they are always calling you. You will first get an email stating we received it and that we're in the process of reviewing it, and it will tell you in that email who your case manager will be. Then the case manager, when they get to it, will be calling you to thank you for your business, to let you know that it's in good order and what to expect next, or to go over what is needed. Now, if a message has to be left for the agent, we not only leave a voicemail, but we also send an email letting you know what is needed, if anything, or what to expect. Once that happens and it goes to the carrier, we status the cases every 3 days. Now, that doesn't mean if a carrier sends us an update today and my follow-up isn't for 3 days, I'm going to send on to you that status notice from the carrier letting you know where the app is at. But if we don't hear anything within 72 hours, we are following up with the carrier to find out where they're at in the process. Unfortunately, as Curtis has said, the carriers are a little further behind in processing due to COVID and the pandemic. So some of the carriers are taking an excessive amount of time to review. But just know if the case manager is telling you that they're out 10 days, that doesn't mean we're not statusing for 10 days. We're still on them every 3 days. And then at that 10-day mark, if we're not getting an answer, we're escalating that. Because we want to follow their guidelines, but we also need to hold them accountable for those as well. And you will be notified throughout the whole process. And typically what happens is they email once, they call the next time. They email, they call. And that way, if for some reason our emails go to your spam folder, then you're getting a call as well. But you are welcome to call us at any time to find out what the status of your case is. And if your case manager is not available and you need an answer, you're more than welcome to talk to anybody on the team. We all can help out. We can all find out what's going on for you. And if we don't know, we can definitely call the carrier to find out for you and give you a call back. So that's kind of the process through the application process here at IAMS and the carriers. Did that answer it, Curtis?
Yeah, and I would add on to it as well, because you're probably not doing it justice. But the team that we have is a very, very good team. And when Cindy's talking about the updates, I mean, they are aggressive. I mean, they are pushing. When we get a case in, we know it's important. They are pushing to get that through as quickly as possible. And so, um, I've worked with a number of firms over the years, and sometimes you'll have a case manager where you feel like they're just sitting back waiting for the carrier to send something out, and then the case manager just forwards it on. That's not what you're going to find with the IAMS team. I mean, they take a very proactive approach, and a lot of firms out there take a reactive approach. But the IAMS team takes a very proactive approach of trying to get these things pushed through as quickly as possible. So the last question that we had come in, Cindy, was as far as case managers, does an agent, are they going to deal with the same person, or do they deal with a few case managers? But what does that look like?
Great question. So what happens is our case managers, the cases are divided up by carrier. Excuse me, and we do that so that the case manager knows the carrier inside and out. They don't have to know all 40 or 50 carriers. They know their 10 or 15, and they know them well. So that is why we separate them or divide them by carrier. So if you have a Prudential, you're going to get Kim. If you have a Principal, you're going to get Michelle. And I also wanted to mention, because Curtis, you mentioned a good point, is the case managers that we have 10 years plus in the business. We have some that have been agents assistants. We have one that's worked at a carrier. Um, one's always been in the brokerage world. So there's an array of experience here amongst our case managers that they put all that knowledge to use. And like I said, they even look at some of that underwriting and kind of question, hey, is this the right carrier for that? Because they see what the carriers are declining. They see what the carriers are rating. So if something comes across their desk and it doesn't look right, or it doesn't look like it might get through like you want it, like you applied, they're going to start questioning that for you and try to find the right scenario. Now, sometimes, most of the time, it is good and we send it, but there have been a few times we've readjusted and the agent has redone with a different carrier and got a better rating. So that is something else I wanted to mention as well, because we do have a very knowledgeable staff on the case management side as well as the sales directors.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to so let me I'm going to get our number up on here. So Cindy, I really appreciate you taking some time today with us and kind of doing a deep dive on this whole process. And for all of you on the call today, I appreciate you taking some time to spend with us and learn a little bit more about this. And I hope your core takeaway is that, to Cindy's point, we process a lot of business. There's a significant amount of experience with the team. We take a very proactive approach versus a reactive approach, and hopefully you got some good ideas over the course of the presentation of some different things that you can do and that we can work with you and help you with to make sure your cases go through as quickly as possible. I would also mention to everybody, Cindy had referenced our health screening questionnaire. That's a really good tool that you can use. I think every agent should have it in their file. So that way, when you do come across somebody where they mention something health-wise, it's got all the questions that you might need to ask. And then, as Cindy had mentioned, give us a call. The phone number is 800-255-5055. But we have a very knowledgeable team from the sales director side as well as the case management side. And so we can help you and make sure we're getting the right option, the right fit, and the right rating. So that way, we can make that submit to commission time frame much shorter and make sure you're getting more of your cases placed. So in any case, appreciate everybody taking the time to be with us today, and we look forward to chatting with you. Thank you.